Hey guys, if you don't already know me, I'm Fahim Saleh, the CEO of Gokada. I know I've been a little bit quiet as of recent events with the motorcycle transport ban in Lagos, but I've been trying to process it and figure out how I exactly want to speak on the topic. I mean, it's tough for an entrepreneur who's trying to innovate, who's investing his own money, when this is not my country. It's a country that I feel has amazing potential and has amazing people, and they just need the opportunity to shine. And the drivers that were at Gokada, every one of them wasn't there because they just wanted to make money.
On a July evening in Manhattan, Fahim Saleh's cousin used her spare key to check on him after a day of unanswered calls. At first, the luxury condo seemed normal. But then, the smell, the eerie hum of a machine, and a power saw still plugged into the wall. Black contractor bags scattered across the floor. Inside them, the dismembered remains of one of tech's brightest young stars. Who could do this to a man so admired, and why? The victim was 33-year-old Fahim Saleh, a self-made tech millionaire who co-founded major ride-sharing apps in Bangladesh and Nigeria. He lived alone in a sleek Manhattan apartment, the kind of space that spoke to years of vision and relentless work. But within hours, police would confirm the shocking truth: Fahim's death was no accident. He had been tossed, stabbed multiple times in the neck and torso, and then dismembered. Investigators moved quickly. Just 4 days later, their focus narrowed to an unlikely suspect, someone young, someone close, someone Fahim trusted with both his finances and his personal life. That person was 21-year-old Tyrese Haspel, Fahim's own executive assistant. A murder born not out of rage or jealousy, but something far colder: money. Before headlines and courtrooms, before tragedy and betrayal, there was simply a boy with a curious mind. Fahim Saleh was born in Saudi Arabia to Bangladeshi parents who dreamed of giving their children better opportunities. When the family moved to the United States, Fahim was just a child. Shy, but endlessly fascinated by computers, he would spend hours tinkering, teaching himself code while other kids played outside. By high school, he wasn't just playing with ideas, he was building websites, running small online businesses, and dreaming of connecting people across the world. Friends said it was impossible to keep up with the way his mind raced. He wasn't chasing wealth, he was chasing creation. That drive only grew stronger. In Bangladesh, he helped launch Patheo, a ride-sharing and delivery platform that transformed transportation in a country where mobility was often a struggle. Later, in Nigeria, he became CEO of Gokada, a motorcycle ride-hailing service that promised jobs, independence, and convenience in bustling Lagos. Everywhere Fahim went, he left the same impression: a visionary, but also approachable. His colleagues describe him as generous, funny, and humble, someone who wanted to use tech not just for profit, but to solve real problems in people's daily lives. To his family, he was more than a successful CEO. He was a son, a cousin, a young man who still made time to laugh, to check in, and to dream about the future. Fahim was only 33, but he was already building a legacy. And yet, all that promise would be destroyed, not by an enemy, but by someone sitting right across the table, managing his life. In 2018, Fahim hired a young man named Tyrese Haspel as his executive assistant. At just 19 years old, Haspel was bright, ambitious, and eager to prove himself. His job wasn't small. Fahim trusted him with handling finances, personal errands, even the details of his private life. For a young assistant, it was the opportunity of a lifetime. Working so closely with a rising tech star gave Tyrese access that most people could only dream of. Fahim treated him with respect, saw potential in him, and believed he was loyal. But behind that professional smile, Tyrese was hiding something darker. The role that should have been about trust and responsibility soon turned into temptation. Money was moving through Fahim's accounts, and Tyrese had the keys. At first, no one suspected a thing. Why would they? To Fahim's family and colleagues, Tyrese was just the assistant, the young man always by his side, helping him keep his life in order. But as investigators would later reveal, this proximity gave Tyrese the chance to set a deadly plan in motion. What began as small, hidden withdrawals soon grew into a full-scale scheme. Investigators later uncovered that Tyrese Haspel created fake PayPal accounts and bogus corporate statements, quietly siphoning money from Fahim's businesses. The theft didn't stop there. He covered his tracks with names that looked legitimate, moving money in ways meant to blend into the flow of everyday transactions. By the time Fahim noticed, the losses had ballooned to nearly $400,000. When confronted, Tyrese must have feared his world was about to collapse. He could have been facing arrest, prosecution, the end of his career. But Fahim didn't call the police. Instead, he made a choice that revealed his character, mercy. Fahim believed in second chances. He gave Tyrese the opportunity to quietly repay the money, to fix his mistakes without facing the law. To Fahim, it was a chance to save a young man's future. But to Tyrese, it was something else entirely. That second chance became a deadline he could never meet, a weight pressing down on him, threatening exposure at every turn. And instead of seeking forgiveness, he began plotting a way to erase the problem altogether. On the evening of July 13, 2020, Fahim entered his apartment elevator. Security cameras captured the moment, stepping inside, tapping his fob, the doors closing behind him. But he wasn't alone. His assistant, Tyrese Haspel, slipped in right after him. Inside that apartment, the confrontation turned violent. Tyrese struck first, using a taser to immobilize Fahim, leaving him unable to fight back. Then came the knife, brutal, calculated. Fahim was stabbed multiple times in the neck and torso, his life taken in minutes. But the horror didn't end there. Tyrese left the apartment that night and returned the next day with supplies, a saw, contractor bags, and cleaning materials. His plan was to erase what he had done. He began the gruesome process of dismembering the body, placing parts into bags scattered around the condo. The crime might have continued unnoticed, if not for Fahim's cousin. Concerned after a day of silence, she used her spare key to check on him. What she walked into was a nightmare, a room of half-finished erasure, a saw still plugged into the wall, and the devastating truth that Fahim was gone. Detectives didn't need long to trace the killer. Surveillance cameras in Fahim's building showed Tyrese following him into the elevator that final night. The images captured the last moments Fahim was seen alive. Receipts told another story. Tyrese had purchased a saw, cleaning supplies, and heavy-duty contractor bags just days before the murder. Each item matched what police recovered inside the apartment. Then came the digital trail. On his devices, investigators found chilling searches, dismembered body, Fahim Saleh, and murder of tech CEO in New York. The questions he typed into search bars revealed the dark planning behind the crime. And when detectives examined the finances, the motive became undeniable. Nearly $400,000 siphoned into fake accounts, money Tyrese could never repay. Fahim's mercy had given him a chance to make things right. Instead, it became the reason for his death. Piece by piece, the evidence painted a picture of betrayal that no jury could ignore. Detectives didn't need long to trace the killer. Surveillance cameras in Fahim's building showed Tyrese following him into the elevator that final night. The images captured the last moments Fahim was seen alive. Receipts told another story. Tyrese had purchased a saw, cleaning supplies, and heavy-duty contractor bags just days before the murder. Each item matched what police recovered inside the apartment. Then came the digital trail. On his devices, investigators found chilling searches, dismembered body, Fahim Saleh, and murder of tech CEO in New York. The questions he typed into search bars revealed the dark planning behind the crime. And when detectives examined the finances, the motive became undeniable. Nearly $400,000 siphoned into fake accounts, money Tyrese could never repay. Fahim's mercy had given him a chance to make things right. Instead, it became the reason for his death. Piece by piece, the evidence painted a picture of betrayal that no jury could ignore. For days after the murder, the trail led detectives to an Airbnb in Manhattan. Tyrese Haspel had checked in, not to hide in fear, but to celebrate, planning a birthday getaway with his girlfriend as if nothing had happened. When officers moved in, the contrast was striking. Just days earlier, he had carried out one of the city's most gruesome crimes. Now, he was lounging in a short-term rental, trying to play the role of an ordinary young man. But the mask didn't hold. With the evidence already stacked against him, Tyrese was taken into custody without a fight. The arrest sent shockwaves through Fahim's community and across the tech world. How could the man trusted to manage his life, the man given a second chance, be the same one who planned his death? For Fahim's family, the arrest was only the beginning. Ahead lay months of waiting, a courtroom battle, and the painful unraveling of every detail behind his murder. When the case went to trial, prosecutors laid out a story of betrayal and calculation. They described how Tyrese Haspel, drowning in debt from the money he stole, chose murder over accountability. The jury was shown security footage of Fahim's final moments in the elevator. They were walked through the receipts, the saw, the contractor bags, each one a piece of preparation. They heard about the internet searches, typed in the days after Fahim's death. And they were reminded of the mercy Fahim had shown, giving Tyrese the chance to repay quietly instead of facing the law. The defense tried to argue that Tyrese had snapped under pressure, that this was not premeditated. But the evidence told another story, one of planning, deception, and cold intent. After weeks of testimony, the jury delivered its verdict, guilty of first-degree murder and grand larceny. For Fahim's loved ones, it was a moment of justice, but also a reminder that no sentence could bring him back. On September 10, 2023, in a New York courtroom, Tyrese Haspel finally learned his fate. At just 25 years old, he was sentenced to 40 years to life in state prison for the murder of Fahim Saleh. The Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, addressed the court with words that echoed beyond the walls. Even after the defendant stole from him to fund a lavish lifestyle, Mr. Saleh still gave him a second chance. While today's sentence won't bring Mr. Saleh back, I hope it provides his family a sense of closure. Those words cut deep. Fahim's kindness, the very trait that defined him, had been the reason he was vulnerable. He had chosen forgiveness over punishment, and it cost him everything. The sentence closed the legal chapter, but for Fahim's family and friends, the pain of his loss remained a life sentence of its own. In the wake of tragedy, those who knew Fahim refused to let his story end with violence. Friends and family remembered him not as a victim, but as a visionary builder. A man whose ideas stretched from New York to Nigeria, from Bangladesh to the future of tech. He was more than a CEO, he was a dreamer who wanted to solve real problems, who wanted to make life better for people around the world. His generosity, his laughter, and his drive left a mark that outlived him. Even now, his ventures and innovations stand as reminders of what he achieved in just 33 short years. Fahim Saleh's name will forever be tied to the tragedy of his death, but more importantly, to the brilliance of his life. Fahim Saleh's story reminds us of a painful truth. Sometimes, the deepest betrayals come not from strangers, but from those we trust the most. A brilliant life, cut short, not by chance, but by someone he believed in. As the world remembers Fahim, his legacy stands as a reminder to dream boldly, to build fearlessly, but also to never forget the value of trust. This is True Crime Confession Tapes. Thank you for watching.